Hello, and welcome to this session on how to integrate data privacy awareness into your information security awareness training program. Throughout the session, we will provide you some advice and guidance on how to help your workforce apply data privacy best practices, respect principles, and secure sensitive information, effectively defending it against cyber threats and data breaches. So why is data privacy relevant for all employees and all organizations? Well, currently there is global regulations into effect that may apply to you even if you're not in their jurisdiction, like GDPR. The fines to data breaches and privacy regulation non-compliance are too significant to ignore. And also personal information is continuously targeted by hackers because of its increasing value and ease to obtain. Also, as a result of a data breach, organizations may incur significant financial losses, costs related to data recovery, and also potentially victim compensation and fines. Also, a data breach could have of personal information could lead to diminished brand reputation, consumer mistrust, and long-term negative impact on revenues of the organization that has been affected. So what is the difference between information security versus privacy awareness? Well, when you do information security awareness training, you teach users on how to handle information. Whereas in privacy, you need to teach them how to recognize what is considered personal information that needs to be secured and properly handled. In security, also, you need to teach users on how to recognize cyber threats, which often target this personal information. Whereas in privacy, you need to teach users on how to understand the requirements that a regulation may have in place on the collection, use, retention, and destruction of this sensitive personal information. Protecting assets also is critical in information security awareness training because either physical or digital information, computers and software tend to store sensitive information. On the privacy side, you need to teach users on how to respect the various privacy principles that govern the use and handling storage of personal information. Also on the security side, you need to teach users on how to report any suspicious events. On the privacy side, it becomes very important to have a data breach notification process that is timely and reaches out to the appropriate authorities and users when relevant. Also on the security side, it's very important to teach users on how to respect information security controls, and on the privacy side is to follow established procedures for the proper collection and use of personal information. So it takes a combination of both security and privacy awareness in order to have a full and complete comprehensive program in place. Data privacy obligations could vary based on your organization, where you operate, and where you're located. So some examples include the GDPR, whether you're located in the EU or you're dealing with the personal information of data subjects located in the EU, GDPR may apply to you. In the United States, an example is the California Consumer Privacy Act. Again, depending on where you're located or if you're dealing with information of users that are located in a specific jurisdiction. You have to take all those privacy regulations into consideration when ascertaining what are your obligations in terms of privacy awareness. So it's very also important to, before you start your privacy awareness program, to establish a baseline and to have sort of a starting point. Do you have an information security policy on the proper handling of information technology and also personal information? Have you communicated to the users on what are the requirements to protect the assets and especially the assets that store and process personal information? Also, do you have established guidelines to make sure that you're communicating to users any potential vulnerabilities, unauthorized access, use, disclosure, or if they detect an event that may lead to a breach, So it's very important to have a process established in place, because that's where awareness is going to come in and remind users and reinforce those existing processes that you have in place. When you're planning for your information security awareness program and you need to include a privacy component, you need to establish and determine what are your requirements. Typically, privacy awareness comes from a legal or a compliance department, or directly from external regulating bodies. So you have to understand what are the external requirements, and also what the internal requirements, what procedures you have established internally, what policies that you need to communicate to your end users. Also, it's very important for users to understand what are other cyber threats and vectors that may be targeting personal information. Because there's one thing understanding what the privacy requirements are, and another is understanding the cyber threats that may be targeting this information. So it requires a combination of both. And also, you have to make sure that you minimize and reduce the potential impact, risks, and costs associated with a data breach, and making sure that you're respecting and your internal security objectives and goals. When you're thinking about privacy awareness, you have to take into consideration the various audience that you may have to educate. And each audience may have individual and specific awareness needs. General employees need to be trained on what is considered personal information, and what are some of the high-level principles and guidelines on the protection, collection, and use of this information. Managers and executives have more important roles in place, because they're responsible for implementing protocols, procedures that the rest of the employees will have to follow. So for them, it's very important to understand the requirements of the regulation and making sure that they have the appropriate process implemented, and ensure that employees are aware of these processes and follow them when handling personal information. IT and system administrators often are responsible for maintaining systems, applications, and databases that often house personal information. So these groups need to be informed on the proper controls and requirements, whether by regulations or maybe contracts from clients, on the protection of this personal information. If we need to require pseudo-anonymization, encryption at rest, and encryption in transit, a lot of those controls would be put in place by the IT and system administrators. Excuse me. Human resources administrators also tend to have access to personal information of employees. So that's one of the first groups that needs to be informed. And also any other users that may be accessing personal information of clients. So how do we protect this information? What are the proper processes for collecting information of clients, distributing, using, accessing, maintaining, and eventually deleting? So your awareness program has to be tailored based on the different audience, how they treat and how they handle personal information, and what are the processes that they need to be aware of. So what are the next steps? So determine which content is going to support your goals. What regulation, what information security, based on topics, region, are relevant to you, and make sure you procure the appropriate content and include it into your library to make sure that you have specific training activities related to your objectives. Build your awareness programs and make them annual. Include various courses, reinforcement activities, and also phishing simulations that may be targeting personal information, or passwords. A password compromise of a specific user with access to personal information could result in a data breach of personal information. And it's very important also to make privacy awareness an ongoing process, with continuous reinforcement messages to all the users to make sure that information security and privacy and protection remains top of mind throughout the year. And also make sure that you optimize your program on a regular basis. Make sure that you verify what works, what doesn't work, to maximize the effectiveness of your ongoing activities. When designing your program, you're going to have to take some additional consideration. So what activities are mandatory and for who? What are the consequences for non-participation and non-compliance? What is the escalation procedures if users are not completing the privacy awareness program? How does the program will affect the different roles? What is the schedule that we have to take into consideration? And what is the frequency that we're going to deploy this program? You have to make sure also that you collect the appropriate evidence for data reporting to make sure that you could demonstrate that you have deployed your awareness activities related to privacy and your users have participated, hopefully at a 100% rate. And also making sure that you integrate your privacy awareness for your new hires. You should not wait until the next cycle of deployment to inform those users of their responsibilities. You need to inform them right away within the first weeks of hiring. And also, you have to take the opportunity to evaluate if users are applying what they've learned in the day-to-day activities. Also, we encourage you to make data privacy a year-round focus. We offer you our data privacy kit that is available on our website at terranovasecurity.com, data privacy kit. Thank you very much. Wish you a good day.